Hello, school leaders. Brad Schreffler here today to talk a little bit about how to set up the accommodations tracker I've developed that we're using at our school. The basic idea here is to create custom Google Forms for each teacher that lists all of their students and all of the accommodations all their students get. This will simplify and speed up the accommodation tracking process and allow us to have more accurate documentation. So before we move forward, I just want to point out I do not take any responsibility for the actual tracking of accommodations and teachers using accommodations in their classroom. This tool just simplifies the process for them so that they can take more accurate records. So to get started, you're going to want to get to the directions page, and I have made it nice and easy. It's at bit.ly/shreffaccommodations. So again, bit.ly/shreffaccommodations, all lowercase, and there's no C in shref. So when you go there, this will take you to the step-by-step directions for how to set this thing up. It gives a general overview as well as a video you can send to your teachers once you've created all the forms for them, and it'll show them how to use the forms and collect the data and receive it. It's also a good video to give you an idea of why you might want to use this process, so that link is right there for you. In order to set this up, you need three things. You need your full accommodations list for 504s and IEPs. You can get these from Peer. You also need a class roster report from Skyward, and then you need a list of all teachers and their email addresses. The easiest way to get the email addresses, of course, is using their ID numbers and then just adding the @ocps.net onto the end of each of those ID numbers. It makes it nice and simple. So to get started, first you're going to go to this link that is at the top right here. You're going to go to this folder. Within that folder, you will find two documents that you're going to need to make copies of. So you'll see this here. You'll have view access to view these files, and you're going to go ahead and make copies of both of these documents. And if you hold Control, you can select both of them. You can go ahead and click make a copy right here, and then you'll be able to move it into your drive through. So once you make a copy, you'll see it working down here. This obviously is not the same file, but I wanted to show you what it will look like when you're in. And you'll be able to do, it'll add it directly to your My Drive. So you'll go to Show File Location, and then you'll be able to move it to wherever you want. I strongly recommend creating a folder in your Google Drive to put all of these documents in, because you're going to want both of them, and you're going to want them both in a single folder, because that folder is where all the copies of the form that you're going to make will get saved to. So you can do that just by hitting New and hit Folder, or New Folder right here, and then give it a name, move those files into it. Now you're going to want to go ahead and open the Accommodations Tracker master file. This is what we're going to be using. And we're going to go ahead and start with getting our schedules loaded in here. So in order to load your schedules, you're going to create an report in Skyward. So you'll go into Office, you'll go into Reports under Current Scheduling, and then you'll do a Class Roster Report right here. There's a couple of settings we need to make sure we have set up. So in your case, you can do Add. I already have the report, so I'm going to click Edit, but the screen will look the same after this. Make sure you give a name to the report. Doesn't really matter what it's called. We're going to do Semester 1 from the drop-down, or the current semester, I should say. So this current semester is either Semester 1 or full year if you want to do that. But do Semester 1 and then Semester 2 if it's the second half. You're going to go into Class Sort, and you're going to select Teacher, then select Class Period, so that we have that organized. You're going to make sure you select Other ID right here. You're going to put full name for teacher. You're going to do last, first, middle for the print order. And then you're going to put today's date in this reporting category right here. So you'll click this drop down and click today's date. That way it'll make sure we only get the reports for today. We don't get previous courses. Then click Save and Print. Once this starts running, go ahead and hit My Print Queue, and then we'll let it run. Once it's finished running, like this one is right here, we can go ahead and hit back. We don't want to display the report because the PDF version is not going to do anything for us. We're going to convert to Excel. We're going to use CSV, and we're going to use Advanced Dump. And that will generate the report for us, and it will go ahead and give us a chance to download the CSV file. Once we click it, now it's downloading. We can go ahead and close these out, and we're going to go back to our master file we just made a copy of, and we're going to import that. So once that's downloaded, we'll go to File. We're going to make sure we're on the schedule sheet. Then we'll go to File, Import. Click on Upload. Select a file from your device. And then Skyward should have saved it into your Downloads folder right here. So that's that file I just downloaded. I know it's the one from now because it's from 11:55. So I go ahead and select that to import. This is really critical. Click on Replace Current Sheet. This is the one we need to select. If you create a new spreadsheet, it's not going to work. If you replace the spreadsheet entirely, it's not going to work. You need to do Replace Current Sheet and then hit Import Data. This part will take a few minutes because it's importing a lot of data, especially depending on the size of your school, but the larger your school, the longer it's going to take. So we'll let that run and we'll just be patient with it. Once it's done, we'll see this really ugly report. Don't worry about the fact that it's kind of a mess. We don't need to worry about it for right now. It's what we need, so we'll just leave it here and not mess with it. Now we're going to import the IEPs and the 504s. So you will have to get these reports from someone on campus that has access to peer. It could be your staffing specialist. It could be your guidance counselors, whoever. You do need to get access from someone that has access to peer. So now we're going to go ahead and let this finish loading. This bar here will take a few minutes to clear out completely because it's updating a lot of formulas right now to get information from that master schedule report we just pulled. So once that's all finished up, then we'll go ahead and hit File. We'll do Import, same as we did before. We're going to go ahead and pull the updated IEP form because I got those sent to me by my staffing specialist. So we'll pull IEP. We'll let that upload. Now again, same option. Replace current sheet and import data. Now for this report, we need to clean it a little bit. We're going to select columns E through G, those three columns right there, and we're going to go ahead and delete those three columns. Delete columns E through G. So now we have name, ID number, school, grade, type, and accommodation. Now we'll go to 504, and we'll do the same thing. File, import, upload, and then pull the 504 report, which I have from last week somewhere. There we go. Again, replace current sheet, import data. Give that just a second. And then on this one, we're going to delete columns E and F. We want these two reports to ultimately look the same. So we have, again, student name, ID, school, grade, type, and accommodation. IEP and 504 will both have the same columns across the top. Now, last step to update our data. Now we have this staff list. So I need to be able to know the ID numbers or the email addresses for every teacher. So what we're going to do is we're going to take column A, and the directions for doing this are right here, but we're going to select column A. We're going to right-click and hit copy. Then we're going to paste column A into column I, but we're going to go to paste special, paste values only. So we only want to paste the values here. That way, as this updates, if we get new teachers, whatever, we have that master list. Now, hopefully you're able to pull a master list of ID numbers, personnel numbers for all your teachers, and then you can pretty easily line them up here. But what I need is the last name for each teacher on this column and the email address on this column. Quick trick to get those email addresses easy: if you already have all the ID numbers, let's say this ID number is 11234, then we can do equals J2, which is that column for the, which is the number for that teacher, and then we can do the ampersand and do @ocps.net, and then I have that email address, and I can go all the way down for all those ID numbers just by dragging that bar down right there. And then once all those ID numbers are in, then those are correct ID numbers and email addresses, and that will let the code work. So then we just need last name, short name, and all those email addresses. Pretty straightforward from there. One last step we need to work on to get this set up for a one-time thing. So we're going to go into Tools. We're going to go into Script Editor. We have to authorize the code to have permission to run, because this is connecting Google Sheets, Google Drive, Google Forms. We have to give it permission to access all those things as us. So we're going to open this page right here. Don't worry about all this craziness. You don't really need to worry about that. We're going to go to Select Function, and we're going to click on Open, and then just hit Start. That will now pop up and ask for permissions. You'll notice here in just a second, it's going to say Review Permissions, Authorization Required. We hit Review Permissions. We make sure we're in with our OCPS account. We scroll down and hit Allow. And then that is it. Authorization has been approved. It's now running the onOpen function, which we need. And now, when I go back here, I can close this out. And when I go back here, I can refresh this spreadsheet to now see the accommodations tracker option right here. Once I see that, then I want to go ahead and hit Clean Report. What Clean Report does is it clears out all the 4As or 3As, 4Bs, and 4Cs and replaces the actual numbers so that the class periods line up correctly. So we let that run, we let it say finish script, and we're good. So we've updated everything we needed to update. All of our information is in the forms. To confirm that everything's working before we actually create the forms for our teachers, we're going to go to Form Maker, and we can check a couple of teachers' reports to see what they look like. So I'm going to go over to Form Maker. And then from this drop-down, I can go ahead and hit the drop-down and pick one of my teachers to check. So it doesn't really matter who I check from this list. There we go. I can pick one of these teachers to check. Let's just say I want to pick, I'll pick myself here. So I'll pick my own schedule of students. So give that a second to update. What I should see is the teacher's name, the class periods, the student ID numbers, student names, what grade level, if it's an IEP or a 504, and then all the way across the side will be all of the accommodations those students get. So we should see these starting to go down. So for every accommodation they get is another column in the report. So that's totally fine. If you see tons of those, that's normal. I see that everything's correct here. I may check a couple more teachers just to make sure that everything updated correctly, but it does appear that everything is set. There we go. So the final step of this process, now that I know all the information is correct, we're going to go ahead and do Accommodations Tracker, and we're going to click Create Forms. This is going to confirm, are you sure you want to run this? This process will create Google Forms for all of those people on that list, all those email addresses, and you click Yes. Now, this is a long process. It takes a while. For every teacher you have, it takes at least a minute to a minute and a half, upwards of 3 minutes, depending on how many IEP and 504 students they have. So it is set to automatically keep rerunning itself whenever it needs to. It can take up to 12 hours to run these forms for the first time. You don't have to leave this open during that whole time. If you want, you can come back to this staff list sheet, and this whole area will start to get filled in with the ID and the URL to the form. So you have all of those right there. You'll be able to tell how far along it is in the process by watching these forms fill up, but you don't have to sit and wait for it. You just let it run. Let it do its thing. And by the next day, you're set and ready to go. And teachers will be getting the emails as they're created. As each form and sheet are created, the teacher will get 2 emails from Google saying, hey, this document was shared with you. Hey, this document was shared with you. So they are set and ready to go. Really important that you send them an email before you hit run create trackers or create forms, because you want to make sure that they know what they're getting before they get those. So that's how you set this thing up. That's how you get it all running. And now all your teachers will have those forms to be able to track accommodations easier on everybody. Hope that helps you guys out. And that, as always, if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me, bradley.schreffler@ocps.net. I'm always glad to help you guys out there. And I know you are going to do awesome things for and with your students this year.